In this video, we'll be looking at sourcing for illustrations and icons and how to, the same way we did with images, bring them into Photoshop and work around them and create some cool effects using them within our design. So let's dive into favicons. Now, you can easily go into Google and search for free icons, and you find websites and check for a few of them. There are so many websites that have icons. And same thing with illustration. I'll be showing you two. One for icons, so favicons, and one for illustrations, which is on drawer.co. So let's look at our icons here. You can go in and see that there are different styles of icons, and you don't have to use these icons. Remember, in introduction to illustration, we created a padlock icon, so you can pick a reference image or a reference icon and actually create it yourself. That's another way you could practice the pen tool. So you come in here, you find an illustration, you go into Illustrator and try to figure out the points and practice using that. So we can simply come in here and search for share icon, for example. And here you see different icons, the same way we did with images. You go into the website, you search for the kind of icon or the kind of image you're looking for, and then you look around to figure out the style that you want to use. You can see that some of them are colored. We have some of them as black and white. So you can scroll through, look at them. So we have our share here. This you can easily create in Illustrator. You can see different similar styles. Now you can go in and change the color based on the project you're working on. You can add some text, add strokes, create a sub icon, add a square around it, and once you're done, you can download. Now you have a few options. You have your PNG, and once you have saved this as a PNG, typically you have limited editing access to it. So you have an image with an empty background, sort of like we did with the image we got from Canva. So let's download as a PNG and I'll show you how to, for example, change the color in Photoshop and do a few things. So let's get that and let's go in again. Let's find another icon this time. Let's pick this one and click on download SVG. Let's see if we would get, and here again, you have the sizes. So you can select 50 by 50, 100 by 100, 150 by 150. So now this is the size, the dimension of the icon that you're downloading. The higher it is, the more quality you have. The smaller it is, the lesser quality, because the assumption is that you're using it in a very small section. So let's go back to our PNG and get something that's higher so that we can, let's delete this, take this off. Let's do 500 by 500 and download that. And then let's go back in and get our SVG, say 150 by 150, and download. Now, so in the same way, let's go to OnDraw and look at illustrations. If you go to ondraw.co, you have their homepage and you can read through, learn a bit about them and what they create. So if you go to browse now, we have our illustrations. So you can easily come in here to search. Now, because these are illustrations, you may not always find what you're looking for because illustrations have to be created. It's not as easy as taking an image and putting them on Pixels for you, or taking images and putting them on Unsplash for you. They have to be created, each single piece. So you can streamline your search, say man, and you scroll through to find something that looks like what you're looking for. Jogging, connecting, collaborators. Let's pick injured and download. You see we have two options here again. We can download the SVG for our project. So now SVG is scalable vector graphics, and essentially it means that we can go in and make edits. So we'll have different layers of the illustration. So let's download an SVG that we would use in Illustrator, and let's download another one that we can use in Photoshop easily. So let's get a PNG version, and we have that also downloaded. So now let's jump into Photoshop. So let's go and get our downloads. First of all, let's pick. So you can see here that this is already blurry because we downloaded a very small size compared to what we have here. So let's bring this into Photoshop. And now you can see our icon. And again, we can't easily change the color because this has been exported as an image. It's PNG. So a few things we can do here to manipulate some things. You can see that what we have here is our icon with a transparent background. So we can use our blending options. Remember we talked about color overlay to make those changes. So let's go here. We have our icon. We can reduce the size. Click once. We have our transform tools. It's transform controls. Click one. We have our transform controls. And we can reduce the size. Bring it down. Let's bring it down. And click on OK. So now let's select that. And when you see this icon here by an image, it means that it has been imported as a smart object or smart image. And what that means is it keeps the information of your image regardless of the size that you brought it in, so that when you reduce the size and you extend it, it maintains the quality. But that also gives us the option to go in and make adjustments within the smart object. So we can go in here, and once you see this, you can double click and then it opens that object in another tab. You can see here in our documents tab, we have our smart object here. So if you right click on your image and go to, let's find our blending options right here and go to color overlay, select this and click on color. You can see that now we've made the black icon red. So I can change the color here to whatever color I want. Make this something purple and you click on OK. And now remember we're inside the smart object. So what we need to do is save it so that these changes are applied in our main canvas. You can simply come here and double click into your color overlay and it takes you to that effect. And you can click here, make the change. Let's change the color here so that we have something different this time. And if we don't save it, we still have our purple here. But if you come in here and save, Control or Command S, or you go to File and click on Save. Save here because it's already saved. This is grayed out. And we can close this. We have our color change, right? So we can make this small, depending on the design we're trying to create. We can bring in a circle, say bring in an ellipse and hold shift to maintain the circle. Let's make this, say, this color, and now select our icon. Make sure that it's on top of your circle, and we can bring it here, make it smaller, and click on OK. Remember what we did initially with selection and alignment. So we select both, make sure that it is aligned to selection, and we align its center horizontally and align its center vertically as well. So now we have something that looks like this, but we'll probably benefit more from a white. So again, you can go in, right click here, click on our blending option. We want to change the color, click on our color overlay, and oh, this is gradient overlay. We can also do other things here, but go into our color overlay, click here, make this white, click on OK, select that and save it. Once we have it saved, we can close this tab and now we have our icon. So we can use this, we can group them. Now to group, you use Control G or Command G, and to ungroup, you Control Shift G or Command Shift G, depending on if you're using a Mac or a Windows laptop. So we can Control G, and you can see here we've created a group. You can name the group, say our share icon, And now we have that group. We can move that around. Now, again, if you select something and you notice that only one thing is moving, you can see here, it's because in your selection, you've clicked on the ellipse. So make sure you're clicking on share icon, and you can click on one of these nodes here, click here, so that it shows your controls, and then you can move it around as you please. You can resize it and click on OK. So now remember what we were doing with our circle, where when you're trying to draw a circle, you can resize it to proportion, holding shift, or resize it, create an oval or whatever kind of circle you're trying to create. So that also happens when we're using our resize option. So if you're trying to resize and you notice that it is distorting or it's not in proportion, you hold your shift, or if you see that it's the other way around, you release your shift. I'll show you a setting you can turn on so that when you're using your transform controls, it locks in proportion and you can scale it in whatever angle you like. So once you click on any of these nodes, you see that you have your transform controls, and you see this link icon here. If you unlink it and you do this, now you see what happens. It scales without, maintaining the proportion. It's Command Z. But if we link this and pull this, no matter where we pull it to, it maintains that proportion. So that's something useful. If you extended this and you don't want to use it, you can just click here to cancel, or click this to lock it in. So if I click here, you see that it goes back to what was there before we went into our smart controls. So this is a good way to work with. Again, you see I just dragged my circle, see the ellipse. So Control Z. To select all, make sure that you select your group and click on your smart controls, and now everything stays together and you can move them around as you please. Let's move this to the center and lock that in. So now I've shown you how to work with the icons, to change the colors and just do a few things with them. Let's look at illustrations. Now I'll show you illustrations here, and then we'll also move into Illustrator and see how we can edit SVGs to change the color or make something bigger or smaller. So first of all, let's look at our illustrations. So let's bring in an illustration here. We save this one as a PNG. So when we bring it in here, we have something that looks like this. Now, there's not so much change we can do here, because you notice that in our illustration, we have different colors. So we can't just throw on a color overlay, because that just covers everything with one single color. But here we have the gray, we have white, we have purple, we have black, we have some pink, and we have some, say, brown or black. So to use this, we simply just use it in place. So for example, you want to use this at the top here and bring in a text here and say illustrations, and you're adding the colors or just working with whatever you have in here. You can simply do that. You can come in and resize and all of that. But to properly work with illustrations, make changes and all of that, let's open Adobe Illustrator. So now we're in Illustrator. Let's go back to our folder where we have the illustrations, and you can see .svg. If we double click on this, it will open a new document for us here in Illustrator. And now you can see that we can click specific elements. You can see the building blocks of an illustration here. And remember, this is vector graphics, so we can scale in, and we have everything intact. You can see the building blocks, you can see the lines, you can see this. So even you can create illustrations. So let's go in, you can see the shapes that were used, you can see the shapes, you can see the shapes. And then we can do the same thing. Come in here, let's go over here and change the color. For example, we want something like this. We can select this, click on I to switch to our eyedropper tool, and select this as well. Go back to V, select this, click on I, select this, and now we have a different color. You can select all three of them and say, let's make you crimson. And now we have that. We can say, let's change the skin. Let's make it a bit darker. We can do that here. And so we'll have to also apply that here. Select this, click on eye, select the face to change that. We also have to select the legs as well. Click on eye to change that. And now we have a different looking illustration. You can come in here and say, let's say we don't want these. We can delete that. We can say we want to change the color or even expand the size. If we want the trouser to be shorter, for example, we can go in, click in. So here we have the two of them as one. But if we go into our direct selection, remember, we can just select this portion and say move it in. So we have something shorter, but then again, we'll have to adjust the feet. But then again, we'll have to adjust the legs and make those changes. But this gives you the option to go in and make more changes into an illustration. And then now when you have something that you are comfortable with, you can go back here and click on export. You can do export for screens, but let's go into export as and make some selections, wait for the dialog box to show up. And here we can save it as an SVG like we had before. We can change it to a PNG, we can change it to a JPEG. Let's try it PNG for this. We've seen how to work with our SVGs. So export that. And now, do you want your background color to want it to be black or you want it to be white? Here, let's select transparent and click on OK. I'll wait for a success message to be sure that we have our design saved. Let's check our folder. Okay, we have our design here. Because of the size really small, so that happened really fast. So let's go back into Photoshop and bring our design. And now again, we can work with it as we please. So you save an illustration, it's a different color, you want to change that color, you want to make it look a little bit different, you want to make some adjustments. You take that SVG, you take it to Illustrator, you make your adjustments, you save it as an SVG still or a PNG, you bring it into Photoshop and you continue your work. So this is how to work with icons, how to work with illustrations, and as we design, you see how we use icons and other elements to spice up our design and just using imagery as a whole. In the next video, I'll show you how to find inspiration, the websites to go to when you're trying to start a new design, and how to work around that to inspire yourself to create something that is amazing. See you in that video.